And we're back again. Tiny pauses. Good times. They actually give me a chance to take a breath. I know I do that. Blah, blah, blah.
One question here was, is the DLC going to be mostly fighting, or is there going to be a lot of story and dialogue?
Yeah. We saw amazing response to Legacy, and the fact that sure, there was a fair amount of fighting, but there was also a lot of character interaction, a lot of banter. The banter was really well received. And knowing that, and knowing that people in general coming out of Origins were looking for more stuff that advanced the story or added that kind of depth of character, we decided from the outset that with both Mark and Legacy, we were going to make sure that we own that. So all the followers come back, they've all got their banter. If they haven't seen Carver in a while, they all have little quips back and forth. And there's a fair amount of story here. There's also a fair amount of combat. Certainly you've got Wyverns to deal with, you've got Orlesians who, naturally have a bit of friction with the Ferelden experience. But definitely there's a lot of story and again, some neat revelations both about the Qunari and a little bit more insight into the Orlesian culture than you got from, say, Liliana.
Living Strife wants to know, Mike Laidlaw, is this story self-contained, or does it affect the main story?
The story is self-contained. I mean, that's it's a really fair question. Like, how does it feed back in? Does it have major reactions? The tricky part would be trying to make those reactions. Is that we would have to essentially design the DLC while we were making the game, and I've heard people don't like that. So ultimately what we're trying to do is make sure that these stories fit in, they add something to the experience that you can take away that's kind of, in a lot of ways, enhancing the player's understanding of DA rather than necessarily influencing directly the story. There are tidbits, there are hints, there are things that add stuff to the followers, but it's an experience that doesn't have a huge impact on the overall flow of DA2, except to add, frankly, a big chunk of content that you can engage with kind of whenever you prefer.
So, can you answer from Durantha, how many different types of areas are there in Mark of the Assassin?
Different types of areas. Let's see, there's the one, and there's that other one, and there's that one, and there's that one, and there's that one. I think in terms of types of areas, I'm kind of clumping large chunks of game into overall themes. I would say probably you hit, say, 5 or 6 big kind of thematic sequences, which themselves are often 1 or 2 areas, or 3 areas, or stuff like that as well. Some of the spaces you encounter are really quite big as well. I know people were liking the in Origins, the Kakari Wilds having that lots of nooks and crannies, little side paths and stuff, and so there is a part where you're kind of out in the wilderness, and that is a bit more open experience than some of the dungeons or areas you found in DA2.
Great. So Matt08 wants to know which party members are best to take for story reasons, like how Anders, Varric, and siblings were for Legacy.
Right. So for story reasons, I will just simply say, if you can think of characters that have history with the Orlesians or with the Qunari, those are the most likely characters for you to find some extra goodies for. There's a little bit of stuff there for many of the characters, actually, just sort of scattered around. But I think that, if you were looking at someone who, say, had family in Orlais, those would be characters you might want to at least give it a run with at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So, you kind of alluded to this before, but Ulathar? Sorry if I butchered that.
No, let's say it right. Lathar!
That's better.
Despoiler of moons. Well done, Lathar.
He wants to know, did feedback from Legacy feature into the new DLC?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, certainly both of the DLCs are taking a lot of notes from the overall DA2 feedback. What people love, what people didn't, what people were missing that was in Origins wasn't in DA2 for a number of reasons. And certainly, I think if anything, we were fairly down the path. Certainly, we had 2 teams, all core DA developers working on both of the expansions. But with that little bit of extra time for Mark to get worked on, we were able to take a look and go, okay, so did people respond well, for instance, to the optional puzzles in Legacy? Yes, they did. Awesome. Let's keep pushing and make sure that those are pretty rad. Because I think what we saw there is people responding very well to the choice. Mm-hmm. Do people like that we brought the followers back for banter? Overwhelmingly, yes. Okay, good, excellent. Let's make sure that are for the final sessions that we get them in and they have lots of neat interactivity and so on.
Okay. So, Living Strife wants to know: do you learn more about the Canary in Mark of the Assassin?
You do. You learn some stuff about. I wouldn't say necessarily the inner workings about the Canary, but some elements of how their society is shaped up. Some stuff that hasn't been revealed before that I think will be kind of exciting. And you know, again, it's probably going to be a bit of a tease, but long term we've got some plans coming up for the future that we want to kind of plant some seeds for, and then long term we'll kind of germinate them and explore where they're going.
Okay, great. Rato Loves Rato wants to know, will there be more Cassandra? Not just for this DLC, but in the Dragon Age world overall. Please, she's the best.
Yes, there will be more Cassandra. She does make an appearance in the DLC. Like Legacy, again, it's part of her interrogation, something that she kind of blindsides Varric with. She actually nails a couple of amazing lines in this one. Some good threat. That lady does anger well. But on top of that, we're a big fan of Cassandra, but also really what she represents being a seeker. An order we haven't dug into too much. Who exactly are they? You know, what's their thing? So we definitely want to dig in more there. And for those of you who have been following, there's been a couple of teasers out, a little bit of info released. We partnered up with Funimation a while back, and we've announced, I think it was at Comic-Con, that Dawn of the Seeker is the animated project we'll be working on, and that deals specifically with Cassandra's backstory. Awesome. So for those who want to dig in a little more on Cassandra, how she kind of became who she is, this will add quite a bit of info. And that's, I think, coming out next spring. That's what I'm being told.
That's good news for Rato, who loves Rato.
Yeah, and for Rato.
Yes. Tasman wants to know, does Hawk get to dance at the Fancier Legion party?
Only in the very loosest of senses, in a kind of high impact way. We considered it. I'll be honest. It's kind of hard to say. Well, you know, Fancier Legions. How do we not do a minuet or a waltz or something? But we're kind of staying focused on the heist and getting in. There is plenty of chances to interact, though. Little snippets of Orlesian culture, a chance to see what some of the nobles, even some of the Kirkwall nobles, are like outside of their kind of natural environs. It's pretty fun. And Dave would probably spank me if I said that we didn't have the most exotic of hams.
Bio-Evil Chris wants to know.
Doesn't he work here?
Yeah. Chris, just come in.
Barge.
But
anyway,
he does
what
have
does
a
he
question.
want to know? Yeah.
He wants to know, how does experience work when sneaking? Do we miss experience by sneaking past instead of killing?
I saw that asked on the forums last night. Actually, you know, is this an experience that actually punishes me? One of the advantages to making stealth or combat as two different approaches you can take is that we can kind of balance them and say, okay, because these are for sneaking or for fighting, we can make sure that you come out with equivalent experience. Probably not the same stuff, but you know, kind of equivalent power level. So that was really a kind of a fun kind of sidebar to that decision.
Cool.
Yeah.
That looks really good. Kira Vanis wants to know, will Isabella or maybe Fenris be flirty with Talus?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I will say characters are flirty with Talus for sure. There are a few people who have caught on even that young Carver has a bit of a thing for elves. So yeah, there will be, absolutely. And one thing Felicia does quite well is actually give back as good as she gets. So she had a lot of fun with those in the voiceover booth.
Cool. How many questions would you like to do? How are we doing for time? More. Bring more questions at Dragon Age. So we want to know, Virus Q wants to know, when do we get more artwork for the Dawn of the Seeker art for cosplay purposes? Wink, wink. Nice.
Okay. All right. Wow, that's a very specific request. So actually, we've got a bit of candy coming up for cosplayers. For those of you who don't know, Jessica Marizan has joined the community team. Sat down with her and Erica not too long ago, and one of the things she's a big fan of course, being a cosplayer herself, is releasing more info about how our costumes are designed. So that's something we'd like to do and get that out there. And we'll have some more information on that in the near future. But our art director, Matt Goldman's actually a big fan of that. He thinks, it's really, really cool, because it's kind of like the ultimate tribute, right?
Yeah, sure.
That said, in terms of Dawn of the Seeker stuff, that's largely based on Funimation. So that info will be coming out. I imagine as we get closer and closer, there'll be more info, more pictures, final renders, that kind of stuff. So it should be exciting.
Okay, well, we have time for one more question.
All right, make it a good one.
So we're going to ask Cutlass Kiwi.
Yep.
He wants to know, any plans on making a specialization out of Talis' fighting style?
Maybe. I think that the long term, what we're seeing there is she represents kind of a hybrid approach to kind of somewhere between Archer and Dagger Rogue, and that's really cool. But to my mind, it's something that long term for a player you'd want to earn, right? You'd want to put some effort into it and kind of pick it up. So I would say that it's a long term goal to kind of look at a little bit more hybrid class stuff, a little more specialist thing, and we'd have to look at it in future installments. But I think that it's something with a lot of potential.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for sending us your questions. I hope we got to most of them. Thank you so much, Mike, for explaining this awesome DLC. And
always fun.
Like he said, give us your feedback. We really want to know what you think. So follow us at Dragon Age at Twitter, or check out our Facebook page. Thanks.
See you.